Welcome to Monetize Your Message, where we are helping you develop strategies to build a consistent message and achieve your business goals. I'm Marie.
I'm Jessie, and today we are talking all about audience, which is a really key component to your messaging because it's not all about you. It's about the people you're talking to too, and how to get them super excited about what it is you have to say and what it is you have to offer so that you can make money and so that you can build relationships and really have a lasting positive influence within your business, within your industry, and within your clients' lives. So before we dig too deep into it, we're going to go on a little mini rant, which is our favorite little mini rant. And that is about the difference between a target audience and an ideal client. And the fact that
I thought for mini rant, you said we were going to talk about why we hated pickles. Okay, sorry. Go
ahead. That's next. So a lot of people who have done audience work have done it in the context of an ideal client avatar or an ideal client model, where it's who is my perfect client? What do they look like? What activities do they involve themselves in? What do they need? And this activity on the surface and when it started was really, really well thought out and well-intentioned. It was the sort of activity that a lot of people needed to really hone in on who it was they served. However, like many good things, it's gone a little awry. And we believe that in some cases, people have taken it to extremes to the point where instead of helping you, it's actually becoming a point of contention. It's actually stopping people from making progress in their business because they get so hung up on their ideal client. And this is something that we definitely don't want for you. We don't want your ideal client avatar to be something that paralyzes you from moving forward in your business. So one of the things we've done is stop calling it that. We instead call it a target audience. And we think that this is a much kind of looser term. It is a little broader. It allows for a little more freedom of movement and a little more flexibility so that you don't have to feel like you need this perfect checklist of items that your client has to achieve in order to be ideal, whatever that means.
Exactly. So let's dig into when it becomes a little too far first. One of the things that we kind of cringe at personally when we see it is when somebody has such a defined client avatar that it keeps them from working with people who could actually still be a really good fit for them. So if you have a ideal client avatar and you have gone so far as to discover their hair color and their name and their shoe size and their pet name, it can be fun, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, except, okay, what if somebody approaches you wanting to work with you who isn't named Jenny, who has a fish instead of a bird, and who, wears size 9 instead of size 5? Like, the problem, right? Suddenly, sorry, can't work with you. And so one of the things that we think is important about finding your target audience is, yes, looking at demographics. Obviously, you may have to do that. It's actually a nice way to be able to target ads, or it's a way that you can, if you're working with people locally, make sure that you're, not working with somebody who's halfway across the world, if that's what you want to do in your business. There's definitely a place for demographics. There's totally also a place for psychographics and for looking at what motivates people and who it is that they are they enjoyable to work with, all of that. One thing that we've discovered is that it's really important to hone in before we can start attracting other people in a way that is sustainable for us, is to figure out our non-negotiables. So that's what we would suggest as a first step for you when you're determining your target audience. What are the things that you have to have in a client? Maybe they do have to be in your town, right? Maybe they do have to be within certain ages just because of whatever product you're selling. But maybe they just need to have other characteristics as well. Maybe even though you may not have anything to do in your business with exercise and nutrition, but you really want to work with people who are exercise nuts because it shows that they have a lot of stick-to-itedness that they're very driven people. That's totally not a word. I think I was trying to say something that was close to a word and it wasn't. But it actually reveals something about their personality potentially, even though that may not be something that they is reflected in offerings that you have.
Yeah, totally. And, the idea of creating something that's so specific that it's unattainable is, some of the examples might be a little silly, like what size shoe do they wear? But, you can pull this into things that seem very practical on the surface. So maybe you only want to work with people who are bringing in over $10,000 a month, which, okay, maybe that seems like a boundary you can set, but then what if the perfect person comes around who you guys are a really good match in a lot of ways, but they're only making $7,000 a month or something like that. So, giving yourself that flexibility to shift and not to make everything just, here is a checkbox that I have to tick off. And if I don't tick off, then it's just out of the question.
Totally. So when you think about it, what are your non-negotiables? They should be things that are much more sort of fundamental to that person. So for instance, we don't like working with people who are going to nickel and dime us, right? We don't want to work with people. I mean, obviously, we want to give people as wonderful of a value as we possibly can. And that's important to us. That's one of our values. And so it actually is really frustrating for us and draining for us when we work with somebody who's like, oh, can I get this discount? Oh, can I get tucky down here? Can I da, 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 da. That's something that we've discovered is doesn't mean that they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're a bad person at all. We can be totally great friends with them and really appreciate what they're doing, but it's a non-negotiable for us. We want people who understand our value, recognize it, and are willing to make the investment. And that's why we have multiple levels of offers, so that if somebody is prepared to pay $20 to work with us, they can. And if somebody is prepared to pay 4 figures to work with us, they can. And obviously there's, different touch points when you pay a different amount, but we try to respect that about our clients, and we hope they respect that about us. So that's an example of one of our non-negotiables that we've discovered mostly through trial and error.
Yeah. And, this kind of leads into the next piece, which is, determine what you want your relationship with your audience to look like. Obviously, the relationship that we have with a client who is only able to invest in $20 products is going to look a little different than the person who's able to invest in some of our, one-on-one programs or our mastermind and things that are a little higher touch. Not only is the investment different, but the relationship is different too. We provide as much value as possible to everyone at all levels, but the way that value is provided is a little different because of the nature of the programs, because of the nature of the people that are being involved in this process. So, kind of looking at what do you want that relationship to look like, and also keeping in mind that you could have someone who on paper looks like a great fit for something, but then they might not be. Just because they check certain boxes doesn't necessarily mean that the personalities are going to match, doesn't necessarily mean that they are as driven as they say they are, or as into exercise as they say they are, or whatnot. So, there is a level of pre-validation there as far as once you actually start to get to know these people. So then maybe you need to direct them towards something that would be a better fit, and being willing to have those conversations and not just be like, okay, you check the boxes, we're getting you in the door, we're doing these things with you, and it's just, that's how it's going to be. Finding that flexibility and that ability to move, because that's what it is at the end of the day, going to not just help you and your business thrive, but also help that person get what they need the most.
Totally. So another thing that you can do to help you identify your target audience is to genuinely, I think that's important, insert yourself into the community. So if you can find the watering holes where at least what you think your target audience is right now, or if you have a really clear picture exactly who your target audience is right now, they may be hanging out in forums, they may be listening to podcasts, they may be on blogs, they may be on Facebook. Find those places and listen to people. That's number one most important thing, because you'll be able to glean a lot of information about what they need, where it is you can help them. You can learn about how they speak. You can make genuine relationships with them. But the other thing is to participate. When you participate in those circles, you can start to establish yourself as an expert. But more than that, you can make friends. You can you can have genuine relationships with people who may or may not become your clients, and that's totally fine if they don't, because you're still spreading the message of who you are while you're getting a better and better and better feel for who would be good to work with. When you find out what it is that people need, who are people that you want to serve, that can help you inform your content. It can help you inform your offerings. And also it can help you decide what not to offer, right? There may be some things that you could do, but that you don't feel great about doing, even if your audience needs them. And that's okay too, because this is just an opportunity for you to test the waters and to really invest yourself in the community in a personal way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, once you get those ideas, it makes it so much easier to transition into an actual working relationship, because people are already, you're already working towards getting them into the offers that make the most sense for them. You're already kind of putting these filters into place and being open to that flexibility, which kind of leads to, making sure that those people that you serve are really the people that are going to fill you up. They're the people that you are excited to serve. And that, getting on the phone with them or providing your product to them, hearing their testimonials and their success stories, it really just jazzes you up, as opposed to people who drain you. And, sometimes you're not going to know that right off the bat. And this is a bit of trial and error. And we've gone through this with our business. At one point, just as an example, we decided, kind of going off of what common characteristics we wanted to have with our clients, we decided to pivot our business a couple of years ago, when we were still in that trial and error phase, to working with people who were really excited about about the outdoors. Specifically, we wanted to work with outdoor industry professionals, people who had businesses specifically focused around being outside, living outside, doing outdoor activities, things like that. And on the surface, it seemed like a really great fit, because before we were business partners, we were hiking and camping buddies. It's kind of our go-to thing. Nature and being outside and participating in those activities is one thing that really lights us up. And we noticed that there was a need for it, because a lot of places that served those people, they had copywriting needs. And at that point, we were purely doing copywriting. We were purely writing content. And so we saw this definite need within the market, but it didn't quite work out the way that we thought it would.
Yes. So what ended up happening is that it turns out when you have a common interest with your audience, that doesn't always necessarily translate into being a good fit. We started working with some clients who had different business models that were not a good fit. This is actually a funny story, how we discovered that we don't like being nickel and dimed, right? And certainly not to point a finger at anybody at all. Like, we really value all those clients that we gained during that time. And it was fun to write about those kinds of topics. But what we discovered is that it's actually way less important that we have a common interest like that than we thought. When we pivoted again, and we hope this is our final pivot, into working with fellow entrepreneurs, it was like a sigh of relief. Now, it turns out you can have a lot in common with somebody, even if you literally know nothing about what they do for their business. And this is true all along, right? Like, when I was first hired out of college for my very first job, my first 9-to-5 job, I had been an English major. I hated taking science classes, even though I just enjoyed science. And what was my first job? Well, it was a grant writer for a nonprofit hospital. And so I was spending all my time writing grants around very complicated medical research written by MD PhDs. On the surface, I was not the right person for this job, but what ended up happening is that I really loved working with people who were really brilliant, coming up with great ideas. I loved hearing how excited they were about their research. And I would go interview them and talk to them, these amazing doctors, about what it was they were doing. And I would go back to my office and I'd listen back to the recording and I'd start Googling and I'd start reading journals. And I was like jazzed to learn about what they were doing. Suddenly I'm reading stuff that I never thought I would have read back when I was in college, reading, Proust. And it's amazing, because I think all of us are this way, that when we are talking with somebody that we really connect with, and when we're working with somebody that we really connect with, we're excited to learn about them. We're excited to support them. It doesn't matter if on the surface we don't know a whole lot about their industry. This is why you see business coaches not saying, well, I only work with other business coaches, or I only work with copywriters. They'll work with entrepreneurs from a very broad spectrum of businesses. We're totally the same way. We work with entrepreneurs who do a very broad number of things. It's really more about that mesh and the way that our personalities work together, and the way that we really appreciate what it is they do, and how pleasant they are to work with, and how excited they are about what they're doing.
Absolutely. And, that is what allows you to stay engaged in what you do. That is why we aren't in the position where we feel like we're ever going to have to pivot our business again. Every pivot in the past has been based off of us knowing that there was a disconnect between what we were doing and who we were serving. That disconnect is gone because we found the people that really fill us up and leave us feeling energized, rather than leaving us feeling exhausted and drained, and like we're constantly in this endless churn of trying to make things work and not really quite getting there. Which, allows us to make more money, because it allows us to create programs that really fill our audience's needs and feel good to us. It frees up more of our time to create content like this that is of value, so that people can get content even if they're not in a position to work with us one-on-one yet. And it allows us to have a greater influence and reach more people within that sphere, within that audience. So in our case, entrepreneurs. Whereas when we were working within other industries, we didn't necessarily have as much influence, because it was almost a matter of like, we had to take each individual potential client, each individual person, and try and fit them into this idea that we had of what they should be. And that is not the way to build a good relationship that has longevity. And even if they were perfectly good people, perfectly nice people, we would get along with them in other contexts. As far as a business relationship, it wasn't set up for success.
Totally.
And you do the right kind of audience work, it sets it up. Sorry.
No, you're good. And I think you're right. It is sort of like trying to, pound a square peg into a round hole.
Totally.
And that's a lot of what we were guilty of doing. But the other amazing thing about when you find your audience is that when you have a consistent message and you're preaching it to that audience that, is coming to you, all of a sudden what happens is you're not suddenly in a position of having to smash square pegs or even round pegs into round holes. Suddenly the pegs are just coming to you, right? Like you have presented the hole, and this is a weird metaphor. Basically, you are yourself. You're presenting who you are. That is magnetizing for some people. For other people, it is maybe not repulsing. It's something they're not interested in, and they will sort of self-select away. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do as much. Like, not only do you make more money, and not only do you work with people you like, but you also don't have to spend as much time weeding through who you like and who you don't like. They just come to you. Yes, there's still definitely clients who will come to you because they hear your message and they like your message and it resonates with them. And it's still just on your end, not a good fit. But we challenge you to think about, maybe they're not a good fit for what they say they want to do, but maybe they're a good fit for something else you offer. Maybe the one-on-one personality clash may be a little bit of a problem on your end, but do you maybe offer a self-guided course? Do you maybe offer lots of great value through your podcast, ways in which that you can help them and they can totally get more and more of what it is that you're about? And it's not necessarily a way that you're going to be left feeling drained at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, here's another thing to kind of think about. Someone who might not be in a position to work with you now, may very well be in a position to work with you in a year or 2 years or 5 years. And if they've been following you all of this time, just because they're not an ideal client or a target audience member now, they may be down the road. And even if they never become one, as far as they never actually take you up on your offers, the fact that they've been following you and hearing your message allows them to become an advocate for you, to pull more people in who may become those target audience members. So it's not just about reaching those people who are going to work with you, who are going to sign up for your most expensive program. It's about reaching the people who are going to share your message, because then you will get the people who are going to sign up for your programs, and you will get the people who are going to buy your low-cost offers, and you will get the people who may not ever buy anything from you, but are going to share that message and broaden your reach and your influence.
Totally. So there is, in a nutshell, why we avoid the term ideal client or ideal client avatar. Totally prefer the term target audience. Yes, it is broader. And yes, there's some danger in getting way too broad. But if you feel like your audience is too narrow and you feel like the people that you're clicking or the people that you're working with, you're not really clicking with them, take this as an opportunity to reassess, to think about what's going on, where's the disconnect, and start thinking about it from these other perspectives. That maybe, maybe they're only a good fit for certain offers that you have, or maybe they're not a good fit at all, and you need to think a little bit about how you can determine in like actual, concrete, expressible terms who is a good fit for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And be flexible. Things change, you change, your business changes, the people that you work with change. So the more flexibility you have over time, again, without being too broad, the more you'll be able to reach those people who really do fill you up and leave you energized and able to make a positive impact.
All right. Have a good one.
That's all we got today. Bye.